are the banks and financials losing momentum because the administration hasn't yet announced anything substantive on the deregulation front beyond leadership shake-ups at the SEC and at the Fed, which begs the question, what is then going to unlock the animal spirits and all the M&A activity that was so exciting the market?
It's going to be interesting because, to your point, there was a lot of expectations for bank stock investors after President Trump won the election in November. This group was one of the best performing groups following the election last year. The bank group as a whole outperformed the S&P 500. And up until about 2 weeks ago, the stocks were up on average about 13% versus a market that was up low single digits. And in the past 2 weeks, as you have already pointed out, the stocks have given it all back and then some. And the primary reason is due to this uncertainty in the economy. Will these tariffs that this administration is promoting, will it lead to a recession? At this point, again, it's premature to call that. But to your point on the regulatory side, this is another very important part about the bank stock narrative for 2025. The individuals that have been identified, you touched on Michelle Bowman, who's going to be taking over as vice chair of safety and soundness at the Federal Reserve for Vice Chair Barr, who resigned earlier this year. That's a huge positive for the banks because she's a practical banker. She grew up as a banker in the middle part of our country. She's not an academic. She understands what constraining regulations do to banking. And even Treasury Secretary Besson has pointed out that the stranglehold that the regulations have put on the U.S. banking industry have to be loosened up to engage the banking industry to stimulate the economy. And we expect all of this to happen over the next 3 to 6 months. So we think directionally it's going the right way. We haven't seen anything materialize yet because we need these people in their seats, and we expect them all to be in their seats by the middle of this year.
Yeah, so deregulation is the big play for banks. And, to what you were talking about, Miki Bowman, her backstory is she used to be a community banker, right? And we remember how she has pretty loudly criticized some of Mike Barr's rule-setting efforts in the past. That's been pretty public, right? So is it going to lead to, and this is the big question, right, Basel III Endgame? Is that going out the window? Because, a lot of banks would be pretty happy to have that happen.
Yeah, no, it's a very good point, and the answer is no. The banks want Basel III Endgame nailed down. They don't ever want it to reappear again, so that's why it's not going to get thrown out the window, because if you throw it out the window, a new administration could come back and revive it. So what I do expect, they will close it down and nail it down, but it will not be anything near what the original proposal was in July of 23, and therefore the banks, I think, are going to be very happy with the final Basel III Endgame, and it will be very supportive of the banking industry.